Hello, ghosties. I'm Chance Lee,
And I'm Amanda McAvoy.
and this is That's So Gothic, a movie podcast about girls, guys, and haunted houses. Today's episode is about a house that I don't know if you want to see on Zillow or not, because, like, on one hand, it's got a lot of bodies buried underneath it, but on the other hand, that probably makes it pretty affordable. Like, the
Mm,
only way I could buy a house is if a relative died and left it to me, or if, like, a lot of people died in that house and it was really
yeah,
cheap.
yeah. I've had
Yeah.
discussions about it where I would prefer, honestly, a house that has some baggage because more baggage
At
means
least
less mortgage.
yeah, it's at least a triple homicide. At least a triple. Yeah. Um, today we are talking about The Night House.
Do you guys believe in ghosts? I think there's something in my house. My husband took the boat out on the lake. He took a handgun that I didn't even know that we owned, and
Did he leave a note?
he did. You were right. There is nothing. Nothing is after you. You're safe now.
You said you were safe? Safe from what?
And then over here we have, the husband. You know that we're paying people to do that, right? You don't have to do it all yourself. Owen? I didn't think we had secrets.
Everybody has secrets.
It's our house. But backwards. What the hell was he doing?
You were right. You were right. There's nothing.
There is nothing. You're safe now.
Safe from what?
Released in 2021, The Night House was directed by David Bruckner and written by Ben Collins and Luke Petrowski. It stars Rebecca Hall as Beth, a
Mhm.
grieving widow, Evan Jonigkeit, don't know how to say his last name, as
Mm.
Owen, Beth's hot as fuck dead husband,
Oh,
and he's so fucking hot. Um,
yes.
whew! And Stacey Martin as Madeline, a woman Owen may have been having an affair with. And this is the story of a woman trying to make sense of her husband's suicide while also maybe being haunted by a vengeful spirit. So this movie made $15.5 million. I couldn't find the budget for it,
Oh,
but Searchlight Pictures paid $12 million for the rights to this movie at Sundance in 2020.
Wow.
This was like the Sundance horror darling at the
Oh,
time.
yeah, I could see that.
Brian Tallarico for RogerEbert.com gave it 3 stars. He praised Rebecca Hall and her performance.
Hmm.
He said that this is a performance that reminded him of Nicole Kidman in The Others or Toni Collette in Hereditary, two movies where if the actors don't commit 100%, the entire suspension of disbelief collapses.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I like the connecting it to the others. I see a lot of similarities in their performances.
And I do think she's the highlight of this movie for me.
Yes, she's incredible. I mean, she's just like an incredible actress. So I think it would be hard to not, get something good out of her.
What else do you know her from?
I know her from, wasn't she in, what's the TV show she was in? Let me pull it up.
She's someone I
Um,
feel like I should know because people name her like I should know who she is, but I
yeah,
don't really I don't really know her from anything else.
I'm wondering if I'm getting her mixed up with someone. Oh, she was in Christine. I do like Christine, the one about the news anchor. Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet, but I know the true story of it.
Yes. Yeah, she does a really good job in that. Can't think of, I could have sworn there was some TV show she was in that I really liked, but I think that I'm getting confused because I don't see a television show she was even in.
So
Apparently,
for
oh, sorry.
oh,
Oh, and she was in Iron Man 3, which is my favorite Marvel movie. So,
I never saw that one.
yeah, that's a good one, in my opinion.
I I would confuse Rebecca Hall with Rebecca Ferguson, who was in Doctor Sleep and Dune. I would think they were the same person for a while.
Is Rebecca Ferguson like the hat lady in
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Rose the Hat.
Rose the hat
Yes,
lady.
so stupid.
Yeah, yeah. I get her confused with Carla, which you know what I'm trying to say. We were literally just talking about her. I can't say her last name. Carla Gugino.
Oh,
Gugino.
really?
Yeah,
Okay, and
I think they look
they're
alike.
both in
Yeah.
that Mike Flanagan because Mike Flanagan did Doctor Sleep.
Yeah,
They're in his orbit.
that's true. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, I think they look very similar. He has
He's
a
got a
he has a
type, I
casting
guess.
type. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, very similar in that in this movie, Stacey Martin is cast as like a Rebecca Hall sort of look-alike,
Mm,
at least from behind.
yes.
I'm very fond of Stacey Martin because she's in Lars von Trier's Nymphomaniac Part One,
Oh, okay.
um, which is a movie that I really enjoy, and she is just she's an absolute delight in it, and so I love whenever she pops up in stuff.
hmm
Um,
I can't
and
say I know her.
then I thought I had seen her in a lot of things, but I actually haven't. I've just seen her in
Yeah.
that, and she's in Vox Lux, with Natalie Portman, and she's in
Oh,
this
okay.
and some other things. And then the the Rebecca Hall character, has a concerned friend played by Sarah
Mm,
Goldberg, who's also someone I do not know, but
no
people
idea.
love.
Yeah.
She was on Barry with Bill Hader.
Oh, okay. I've never seen it. Have you?
I
No.
watched one episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I have no attachment.
Yeah. And then a hot husband in real life is married to Zasha Mamet.
Sasha Mamet. Why does that sound really familiar? Is she a model?
She's Shoshana on Girls.
Oh, okay. Wow, really? What a smoking couple.
I know. Not that like, part of me wants to say like lucky for her, but also lucky for him. I mean, they're both like, yeah, gorgeous, but I mean,
Yeah,
he is so hot. Like
he's so
I'll have
hot.
a lot to say about him when we get to our gothic roundup.
Yeah, a little bit of a spoiler, he has an amazing bubble butt. He's got a big old bubble butt.
For a guy that's so fit and thin, I guess it makes sense that he has like the
Yes,
muscular butt, but like it just pops.
it's
Like,
great. It's wonderful.
yes. Ugh.
Yeah.
Everything. Every angle he's perfect.
Yes, he's great. I feel like I know him from something else too. Oh, apparently he was in The Empty Man. You liked that, didn't you? Was that the
I did
one?
not like that.
Oh, okay. I can't remember if I saw it and I didn't like it or if I've never seen it. I can't remember.
That that's another like thriller movie darling that I didn't
Mm,
warm up to.
yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. He's great.
He's so I just look at him, just look at
Yep.
pictures of him on my phone, just making my desktop background, my phone background. Oh, be like, this is my husband. He died. Like,
Yes.
I'm just gonna tell people that. It'll
Oh,
just be like I've absorbed the Night House story into my life, and we'll see if anybody
yeah.
calls me out on it.
Just get photos of him and like put them in like grayscale so it looks a little bit more tragic and yeah, this
Yeah,
is
I'll just
him. Yeah.
Photoshop my face on Rebecca Hall's face and like, or Zasha Mamet's face, show us out on the town.
Perfect.
But not change anything else. I'll
No.
have all of her like couture dresses on and everything, but nobody will catch
Yes.
on.
No.
but so this was your first time seeing this movie, right?
Yes, it was.
And what did you think?
I loved this movie. I loved the atmosphere. I l- I loved weirdly enough, like one of the first things that stuck out to me is I love the music. I love there's like that song that keeps playing over the music system. I don't know, something about it. Like I just really enjoyed. I thought it was like creepy, but it was so like modern radio folk punk, but like they made it creepy. I don't know, there's something about that I really enjoyed. I liked sort of if you want to call it like a twist at the end. It was a little predictable, but like I don't know, there's something about it. It was just very like charming to me. It kind of reminded me of like older horror movies. Like it wasn't trying too hard.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I could just watch any movie with that house in it for hours. Like just someone scared running through that house. I could watch it for
Hmm.
forever.
Yeah, I love the house. It's got so many windows. It's on a
Mm,
lake.
yeah.
It's really gorgeous.
Yes. So what is your opinion of this movie?
So I saw it twice. I saw it in the theater, when it came out, and I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
I did sleep through some of it when I saw it in the theater. I was really tired,
Yeah.
and and I would be woken up by the fucking loud music,
Yeah.
and especially in the theater, it was so loud,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I kinda hate when a movie isn't scary, it's just loud. I
Yes.
found that annoying. And like the
Mhm.
thing is that like it could be I probably would have found it creepier if the sound
Mm.
design wasn't at that loud because it's the way it's done is very eerie.
Yeah.
Um, but that was a minor annoyance. But then like we'll get into it when we do our recap because I think that's where most of my criticisms will come up, or at least near the
Hmm.
end. But so on rewatch, I went in. I'm like, I always go in with an open mind, and I will say I liked the first hour maybe more
Mm.
than when I
Yeah.
saw it in the theater, because I was locked in more to the Rebecca Hall character, and I was able to find the empathy for her that I couldn't in the theater viewing. In the theater viewing, it's like, I'm sad you lost your husband, but like, you're rich as fuck, and like, let's move on. Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
hard time finding sympathy for rich straight white people in movies. They go through something like, not that this is common where your husband commits suicide,
Right.
but this is like not so uncommon that like there aren't ways of just dealing with this other than like
Yes.
spiraling into where she goes. But like so this time I at least knew what the movie was, and
Mm.
her performance is so good, and I really felt for her, and I
Hmm.
just found it so sad and so heartbreakingly tragic.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, when they start getting into where it starts getting plotty at
Mm.
plotty, plotty, and like horror movie, like at the end, I found it even dumber because I I think I slept through some of the lore
Yeah.
when I saw it in
Yeah.
the theater, and this time I'm like, wait, that's what's going on. I was
Yes.
like, that's what this movie is trying to make me think is going on, and I couldn't buy into it, and I kind of checked out even more by the end of this one.
That's very fair. Because I will say, probably my least favorite part about the movie is that I feel like they throw too much at, like a corkboard or a dartboard at the end to try to like explain what's going on. But
Yep.
I almost feel like it was almost charming to me because, like I said, it kind of reminded me of more like 2000s horror where it's just like, fuck it, throw this at it. Because it was like,
Yep.
oh, serial killer, witchcraft. Like, it's like it was kind of stupid. But like
Yes.
it definitely could have been like more like, I don't know, done better. And maybe if it had been that stupid, make it a little bit more fun. So like I understand, but there was something charming about it to me. But I can definitely understand that criticism, especially with the music. I can imagine if I saw that in a movie theater, because that did annoy me. There's one specific jump scare. Can't remember what it might be the music, but I thought it was like she opened up a door or something. And it was just like, and it was like, okay, yeah.
There's a couple back to back because there's a scene that we'll get to where she falls asleep herself and she's
Mm,
woken up by the music. And that's when I literally fell asleep and was woken up by the music and was like, oh Christ.
yeah.
And then right after that might be the one you're talking about, because then there's a series of jump scares that like follow
Yeah.
that in a
Yeah.
pretty creepy sequence. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Someone pointed out, eh, I don't know, a couple of years ago to me, like if a movie isn't scary, if a scene isn't scary with that loud noise, it's not actually scary. And so
Hmm.
I get that.
And I think that's where that was one of my criticisms, because I think it still would have been scary, even without it being
That's
so
true.
loud. Like what happens,
Yeah.
it still would have been scary, but
Right.
that's
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah. It is a
Um,
very creepy atmosphere.
it's a creepy movie, and
Hmm.
I did feel a little more creeped out again at the beginning until I realized where it was going. But I'll talk more about that when we get into the
Yeah.
Gothic recap as well. But let's get into our plot summary of this movie, The Night House. We open with this beautiful day house, the day house.
Yeah.
Gorgeous house on a lake. There's a boat, there's some wind chimes. They've got this really gorgeous stair, almost like exterior dock slash staircase that goes down a
Yeah.
cliff to the water. So pretty. We
Mm.
see a lot of photos of this happy couple, and we see some blueprints because one of them was an architect. And we first see Beth, played by Rebecca Hall, outside. The camera's inside, filming her through the glass door. And the movie does a lot of stuff with reflections, and the cinematography I do think is really strong with this
Hmm.
movie. She's presumably returning from a funeral. We'll learn that it's her husband's funeral, and a neighbor or a friend or somebody gives her like a casserole, which
Hmm.
she dumps into the trash, and that goes smash right into the title card, The Night House, which is really good.
Rude. Yeah.
We we get the folk song that you love.
Hmm.
Um, the captions would just say "folk rock song plays," and
Yep.
so she listens to her folk rock and she drinks red wine, and she's watching their wedding videos and crying. And we start hearing like some knocks, and then there's a kind of a shadow in the glass door behind
Mm,
her that I didn't remember seeing in the theater, but I was really looking out for stuff in the background in this movie, in
mm,
this rewatch, to see if I'd
yeah.
spot stuff. Um, and then the next morning, there are some like muddy footprints going down to the dock.
Yeah.
So we find out that she is a high school teacher, and she goes back to school, and she's like grading and looking at houses online. But then she falls asleep and she wakes up, and there's like guns on her
Yeah.
monitor,
Yeah.
which is kind of wild. Um, and then I think this scene, there's a lot of great scenes early on in this movie that I had forgotten about.
Yeah.
So this mom comes in and is complaining about her son Hunter's
Love
grade.
this. He says, which hunter?
Yes. Oh, how
She's
many hunters do you have? And she goes,
three.
3.
Three. Three. Of course. From 2021, that is the most true part of this movie.
It's so funny because like you also can't tell if she's just making it up because she just
Yeah.
doesn't want to deal with this woman.
Yeah.
Um, her whole performance is great here, and the way she tells her how her husband committed suicide 3 days ago. He took the boat out into the lake, put the gun in his mouth, and bang. Like, and the
Yeah.
last thing that she cares about is which hunter gets what grade in a high school elective public speaking class.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the mother is mortified, and we're getting a look into Beth's personality, which, as a quick
Mhm.
aside, like, one of my critiques of this movie is we know nothing about this woman other than she's really sad about the death of her husband. Like, we
Yeah.
don't know what her hobbies are, we don't know how they met, we don't
Yeah.
know anything about them. She's just Owen's widow. Like, that might
Right.
as well be her character's name. And so I
Yeah.
would have liked to know more. Because I like this side of her personality, and I would love to see it just like not related to this.
Yes. Yeah. That's a really good point because even like the fact that she's a teacher does not play at all into the rest of the movie. Um, I feel like it just acts as a vehicle to like have a friend in the movie, her like coworker. Um, yeah, I mean, that is a really good point. You don't get to know her a whole lot.
And I wanted to know more about her because she is,
Hmm.
again, the performance is great.
Yeah, and she's funny.
Um, she's so funny and so dark about it, and just so
Yes.
glib about it in a way that I feel like if I were unlucky enough to find myself in this situation, I would probably behave in a similar fashion,
Mm,
I feel like.
yeah, yeah.
Or I would want to, now that I've seen this movie. This would be like my model for coping, which
You
is
would just
probably
like
not a
get
good
like a
decision.
really long brown wig.
Yes.
And like she does have some
Hmm.
good little outfits. You'd get like a little strappy mule heel, and like a nice little cardigan. Yeah.
I was surprised how high the heels were that she wore to the funeral, because she comes in and before she dumps the casserole, she takes her heels off, and I swear she loses like 4 inches. Like, she just got so
Yeah.
much shorter.
Yeah. And she's already like a pretty tall woman. She's just like, I'm going to tower over everyone at this funeral.
I guess it's a good power move.
Yeah. Yeah. I might want to do that.
Yeah. So we also meet her neighbor, Mel,
Hmm.
who he doesn't get too much character development,
No.
honestly. He talks about having a dead wife, and he'll come in later to deliver some plot exposition. But we get another great highlight, which is when Beth watches a video of her hot husband doing some woodworking. He's
Hmm.
in like this sleeveless shirt and like sawing, and even the movie comments on it. She's like, "Hello, biceps!" Like,
This is like directed by a man, right?
I
Yeah. So
know, but
even
it's
he's
I
like,
yes, and I love that because so many times, like, you get it in a Hollywood movie, someone who's just ridiculously fucking hot, and they're gonna act like it's normal. They're not gonna talk about how hot this person is.
yeah.
So I love that they acknowledge how fucking hot her husband is.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, and again, it's like, I mean, it's sad that he committed suicide and they had a long marriage, but we also know nothing about her marriage. But I'm really
Right.
sad because he was so hot,
He was so hot, and that's a big loss, you know.
right? And I mean,
Super
they've been
hot
we
husband.
find out it we find out at some point they've been married for 15 years. I feel like,
Yeah.
and he's the type of man that's only getting hotter. He probably hadn't even peaked yet.
Oh, that's so true. That is so true. And
Hmm.
I mean, we haven't talked about it yet either. He built the house. He built the house.
Yes.
What? And I don't think you learn what his profession is. I think you assume it's like an architect or something because of how
Yeah.
good he is at building this house. But who knows? Maybe he had like a super cool, high-paying job too.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, he had to have, because she's a public school teacher. Like, so he has to
That's
have a high paying
true.
job for them to be in this house.
Yeah, this lake house, which we'll talk about later. Like, no one lives on this lake. Like, it's just them and their neighbor.
Right. It's
Like,
her one neighbor and then just
right,
like circumference of trees. Yeah.
how? How? Anyways, yeah,
Right. And I think they're in upstate New York because she goes to like Utica or something. I don't know
yeah,
that area that well.
yeah. I thought that there was something up in the beginning that led me to believe they were in California. I can't remember what it was, but then, yeah, she drives later to, I think it's either Utica or Syracuse or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they have New York plates on the cars.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That would make sense though.
Yeah. Um, so while she's mourning, she's going through some of his stuff, and he has like this design book where he's drawn out some floor plans, but the designs get weirder and weirder and
Mm-hmm.
weirder. And there's mention of something called a cerdroia, which is a Celtic term for a
Oh.
maze,
Hmm.
and this opposite blueprint of their house shows up in the
Yeah.
book. Um, so she falls asleep and she gets woken up by the folk song, um, and a text that says "I'm outside." And
Mm.
this is I think just the texting made me start drawing a lot of parallels between this and Personal Shopper.
Yes, I was gonna mention that. I was like, oh, look it, we have another text message ghost.
And the text message ghost is the creepiest thing to me. Just getting that text is so fucking creepy.
Yeah, it is.
And but also, like, this is a part where I started getting, like, really sad for the character because you see and something that I missed in the theater, because I could rewind it,
Hmm.
can see their last texts before he died, and it's
Yeah.
just that, like, she was gonna pick up tacos,
Hmm.
and he's like, "I'm so excited to see you, miss you," and she just texted back, "Driving."
Yeah. Yeah.
And, like,
I
that's
know.
the last exchange, and that just, like, is so devastating to me,
It's
like, that just really,
heartbreaking,
really upset me, yeah.
right? Oh, I know. That is so sad. I feel like it's so hard because people are always like, oh, treat your loved ones like they're, it's your last day on earth or whatever. But you have to have normal interactions with them. Every single interaction can't be, I miss you too. You're my whole world and sun. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking to think that, I do feel like this character is probably burdened with some guilt, especially
Mhm.
because it's so unexpected. So,
Mhm.
oh,
Yeah,
sad.
because basically what's happening, if I haven't made it clear enough with the plot summary, is that
Mm,
like she wants to know why. Why did my
yeah.
husband kill himself? And so that's kind of her character's main motivation.
Hmm.
And now, this kind of haunting atmosphere is starting to happen. So she calls the number, which made me realize, like, why didn't Kristen Stewart should have just called? Why didn't she call?
Yes.
But also the fact that never even crossed my mind shows me what, like, a millennial I guess I am. Like, I never
Yeah,
even
exactly.
thought to call.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It's like I'm pretty sure Rebecca Hall is older than Kristen Stewart. So if I
Mhm.
was Kristen Stewart, I would not have, I personally would not call. I would never.
Oh, I was like, "What a ballsy move that she's calling." I
Right?
love
That's
that
the
'cause,
most
yeah, I would never do
horrifying.
that.
Yeah.
I
That's
know.
more
And
horrifying than getting the text message.
I know. Like, I'd rather be being killed by the ghost than have to call, have to use the phone.
Ugh.
But and it gets even worse because she calls and there's like a creepy voice that's like, "Look outside."
Yeah.
And but then she looks and yeah, this is where you get hot butt shot of the
Yep.
husband. He's
Hmm.
like Jesus standing on top of the water, like
Yeah.
outside. Ah, baptize me, baby. Like it's so beautiful.
Yeah. The moonlight. He's like this like light blue color. It's just
Ah,
chef's
full
kiss.
moon.
Yes.
Yes. Um ah, beautiful.
Yes.
And I'm just like, turn around. I'm yelling in the theater, turn around.
I
Oh,
start banging on the
God.
window.
Yes. Yes. I'd be out there so fast, swimming through the water, just like, get me to him.
Just on the phone. It's like,
So
dude, chill.
I know.
Booking it.
The text comes back, go away, like blocking you, like new phone, who dis? Like that's what the ghost starts texting me. Like
Got ghosted.
I got ghosted by a ghost. I wouldn't be surprised. That's good. I would get ghosted by a ghost. That'd be so on brand for me. Oh man, that's
Oh
the
my
true
God.
tragedy. But um, so unfortunately, she wakes up and but she again, this house, she wakes up near this gorgeous bathtub. She's in the
Ugh.
bathroom. The tub is like it's like a standalone tub, like would be a clawfoot tub, but like
Hmm.
modern. It's like this
Yeah.
like I don't know polyhedron tub.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful bathroom.
So pretty. And so she looks in the phone, and all the texts that she thought she had received the night before are not there.
Hmm.
So she goes to his phone. Again, good detective work. She finds his phone to
Hmm.
see like if the messages are on his phone. And that's when she starts seeing photos of this other woman
Hmm.
that isn't her. And is this where, let's see, I think so she she goes to this scene I felt kind of ridiculous because she goes to her friend and she's like, is this me? Like,
Yeah.
but also like, it finally realizes like she doesn't even own that top. So like of course it isn't you. That's not your shirt. Like I
Yeah.
just think you would realize that pretty quickly that like I don't own that top.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I can't keep track of all the clothes I own. Who knows? Maybe.
I guess that's true. They are
Yeah,
rich as fuck. She could have
that's
God
true.
knows what in her
Yeah.
wardrobe. But
Right.
that would be my first thing. I would instead of going to my friend and saying, "Is this me?" I would like
Mm,
go to my closet and be like, "Do I have this top? Like, is this
yes.
something I own?" But anyway, we get another to me really good scene where she goes out with like the least empathetic coworkers on the planet, and
I love the like back and forth of I think it's like the guy teacher asks, how did your husband kill himself? He makes like kind of an insensitive joke about it, but her blonde friend is like, oh my God, don't do that. Rebecca Hall is just like, no, it's fine. Like it's just it really is. And then she asks if they believe in ghosts. And they're all like,
Mhm.
"Oh, what?" One of the women goes, "Ghosts? How do you mean? Like, what do you mean? How does she mean?" Oh, so it's a lovely little bar scene.
Well, and the male teacher asks her if the husband left a note,
That's
and
right.
she says, "Oh, he did." And then the other teacher goes,
Yes.
"Oh, she keeps it in her purse, like because she pulls
Yes.
it right out of her purse."
I forgot about that. And it has like blood on the corner.
I know.
So yeah.
I know. I love how morbid she is,
Yeah.
and so she reads the note,
Hmm.
and it says, "You were right. There is nothing. Nothing is after you. You're safe now." Dun dun dun. This will come into play later.
Yes.
Um, so back at home, Beth tells her friend, and this movie's been going on for like 45 minutes. Even the captions just say friend when the friend speaks. I was like, does she not have a name?
Yeah.
And so it's not until this conversation where Beth calls her Claire, and then it's like
Mm.
the captions are like, "Oh, that's it," and then the
Uh,
captions start saying Claire. It's
yeah.
so funny that the captions even just call her friend up until that point.
Yeah. They're like, "Oh, thank God,
So,
we got some clarification."
they're live typing it. Okay, okay, we can stop calling her friend. Like we could go back and fix it. We don't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
Um, and this is where I'm pretty sure I slept through this the first time I saw it. So she tells her friend that Beth tells Claire that Beth died in a car accident when she was 17
Mhm.
and then, was revived in the hospital, but wishes she could say she saw a light at the end of the tunnel, but she says, quote, "It's just tunnel,"
Yeah. Yeah.
which is a really good quote.
Mhm.
Um, and she says that Owen is the only person she ever told that. And so she's pretty sure that's what his suicide note is referring to.
Right.
And so this is when she then kind of falls asleep, and then boom, she gets waked up. She gets woken up by the loudest, it's that same rock song, but she
Yeah.
gets woken up by that, but then like creepy voices over the radio, and it's like, "Go to the door."
Yeah.
And so and this is when there's more jump scares because she opens the door and just like women are running by screaming
That's
and like
right.
jumping off the cliff.
Yeah.
And so she follows one of these women who runs and jumps off the cliff to the cliff, and she sees across the lake lights like from a
Hmm.
house. And the voice says, "Go to the boat." And so she goes down to the boat, which is like wrapped in like blood-stained plastic.
Hmm.
And she is asking if this is Owen, and because these footsteps in blood come up to her. And I understand, like, I always wonder what I would do in this type of situation, because on one hand it's like you're so desperate to hear from your loved one, but on the other hand, like, I would hope my loved one would not be being as creepy as fuck.
Right? Yeah. Like I am such a curious person. I think I would do what she's doing, but in a very different react like I would be reacting differently because she is
Mhm.
she's hopeful that it's Owen, she's on the verge of tears. I think she says like, is it really you? um I would also approach whatever it is, but I would be a lot more like, what the fuck is
What are you
this?
doing?
Like, yeah, exactly, like knock it off, like what the hell. But I am such a curious person, I would have to.
I would have to as well. But yeah, I would also
Yeah,
be like, okay, I loved you for 15 years. Like, why the fuck are you making footsteps in blood on the dock? Like, like,
be
can you
like,
just
clean
like
that up.
clean it up? Can you just like, I don't know, draw a heart for me, like
Yeah,
in some frosted glass or something?
right? Like we've seen Ghost. Like,
Yeah, yes,
do
make a
that.
pot with me.
Just make a
Yes,
pot.
that Patrick Swayze's the only ghost that knows how to be a ghost.
Honestly, truly.
Hmm.
Yeah, all the other ghosts suck.
Ugh.
Not
Because
Bill
they're all
Patrick.
evil. Yeah, if they're not
Yes,
making pottery with you, they are a demon and
that's
not
true.
your loved one. Yes.
100%.
So this ghost that like takes her across the river. I keep saying the river, but the lake, like ferries her
Mm,
across the lake on this boat. And this is where she sees a house that's her house, but flipped. Like even the house number is backwards.
hmm.
Um, and she sees women in the house that look like her, and she sees her husband with women that look like her,
Yeah.
and she goes into the house and she sees herself asleep on the couch. And then
Yeah.
that's where she wakes up because now she's back in her own house. That was a really good just like cinematography like trick and everything. That was really good
It
shot.
was. It was very trippy and it I mean it left me super confused. But yeah,
Mhm.
it was a very trippy scene.
Yes, I really liked it, and this is where again I'm still into it. Like I'm still
Mm,
into the movie at this point.
yes.
Um, so she goes into his computer files, and this is where I have to take this podcast on a detour that I never thought I would, and I don't
Oh,
even know
okay.
if you know where I'm going to go with this. So there's a file on his hard drive that says instrumentality project,
Okay.
and my favorite anime, Neon Genesis Evangelion,
Huh?
is all about something that they call the Human Instrumentality Project. And that's the only time I have seen this phrase, instrumentality project, in my
Yeah.
life. And so I started Googling instrumentality project to be like, is this something that is something else?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, my Google bubble is feeding me back Evangelion stuff. So I
Mm,
asked a friend of mine, I said, can you Google instrumentality project
yeah.
and see what comes up? And he says it's all Evangelion. So I'm like, why is there an Evangelion reference in this
Yeah.
movie? Because now I have to explain what the instrumentality project is. But to
Okay.
me, it doesn't have anything to do with this movie at all. So it's so bizarre. But
Yeah.
so Evangelion is all about like, it's a, honestly, okay, now that I'm talking, Evangelion is a depression allegory. And this movie is also its own kind of depression allegory.
Mm, yeah.
To me, that's where the two diverge. So in Evangelion, there's this thing called the Instrumentality Project because as humans, we're all just like, meat sacks with brains, individual brains. As
Yep.
much as we want to connect with someone else, we never truly can because we're one organism. And
Right.
so the goal of the Instrumentality Project is to dissolve all of humanity into this one like liquid type form, and
Ooh.
all of human consciousness will meld into one organism,
Ooh.
and our deep internal desires to be connected to each other will be realized through this event.
Wow.
And so that's what the Instrumentality Project is. And I was just like, okay, that has nothing to do with this at all. Other than like, I don't know, this yearning for connection and trying to figure it out. But
Right.
like, it's such a bizarre, weird little drop to have in this movie. And also
That
the
is
fact that like there's one Reddit board that like mentioned it. I couldn't find
really.
anything else that mentions Instrumentality Project and the Night House. So like I need to someday interview the writers and be like, why is this
Yes.
in here? So maybe I'll send them
Honestly,
an email and see and if they answer me.
please do. I mean, A, that makes me really want to watch that now. So I think I will put that on my TBW. And I
If
mean, I guess like, oh no, what?
I was just saying, if you are in for a lot if you watch Evangelion. It's a
Is it?
24 episode anime,
Uh,
um, and then there's 3 or 4 movies, and
oh
then
God.
a reboot movie series.
Oh my
And
God.
but it's worth honestly, it's worth watching because it's some of the weirdest shit you'll ever see in your life
I
in a
love that.
variety of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, the only thing I can think of is like because it's on the husband's laptop and you'll find out he's sort of like researching a lot of methods to solve a
Mm.
problem.
Mm.
Or maybe he's just like a massive weeb and he just like really loves that anime.
He
Who
loves it
knows?
too.
He
Yeah.
loves it too,
Oh
you
my
know?
god,
I don't
a
know.
hot guy who had loves my favorite anime. He is like my perfect husband.
Oh my God. Wow. Wow. That's exactly what that was for, is that was a call out specifically for you.
Someday I will find this hot guy who also loves my favorite anime,
Yeah.
and I'll get
He
at
might
least 15 years of marriage out of it.
perfect. That's really all you need.
Honestly, like again, this is so rude, but it's like I would take all of this happening just to the trade-off that I got 15 years married to this guy. Like, sorry.
I would do it for like 15 minutes.
I'll say a year and a half. I'll compromise. I need more
There
than
you go.
15 minutes, but
Yeah.
a year and a half, yeah. But 15 years, that's another thing. It's like 15 years? You got
Yeah.
15 years,
Right?
lady.
Like they don't even look that old, so they must have gotten married young.
I think she does mention at some point they got married very young, but also
Oh, okay.
like they seem to have just had this perfect marriage. We
Yeah,
never get any flashback to them ever even having an argument or
right.
anything. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, everything that happens after he dies is such a shock to her because she thought she knew him so well and everything and
Yes.
you know. But anyways, that was a very interesting detour. I'm glad you noticed that.
I'm so glad I got to talk about my favorite anime on our podcast. Like, I never thought I would have that opportunity,
Yeah,
and here it presented itself. So blew my
perfect.
mind.
Yeah.
But clearly Beth has never seen that anime. She just scrolls right past it, and she's going into his photos, and she finds the photo of Stacey Martin at this bookstore, along with like dozens of other women who
Mhm.
like kind of look like her.
Yeah.
So she then decides she's going to try to find this house that she saw across the lake in her dreams, and she finds it. Um, there it is,
Yeah.
which is just like wow. Um, and in this house, there's like a pipe that's almost like been bent into a heart,
Yeah.
and inside the heart, she finds this really gruesome sculpture.
I really want it. Like I want that for my house.
So it's a real thing,
Oh.
um, from like the 13th century or something.
Uh-huh.
Um, the one in the movie looks much more both violent and erotic at the same
Mm.
time. The original one is kind of a little lumpy, but
Nah.
it's they call it the Louvre doll, like the museum, because the
Oh,
Louvre
okay.
owns one.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, did you get any info on like what it means in real life or?
Yeah, let me look that up because what I do like about this movie is that the doll, the doll and the that thing I mentioned earlier, the Kadrick maze or whatever.
Yeah,
These are all like real concepts that are being kind of worked into it.
right.
Um, but so this is it's a 4th century clay figure impaled with 13 bronze needles. It
Hmm.
is a binding spell, a type of curse, which usually someone has asked the gods to do harm to another.
Interesting.
And the figure represents the intended target.
Ooh, so it's almost like a voodoo doll in a way.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. I want one, except I want all of the little spikes to be like fancy pens, and I want it to go on my desk. Yeah,
You should just get one, yeah, with holes, and you can keep your own little pins in it.
my pens, or like a letter opener, I think would be really nice in there.
I love that.
Yeah, I'll keep my eyes peeled. Or maybe I'll just make one. I'll
What a
do
Christmas gift. Yeah, I'm
I'll
gonna go
get
on Etsy after this and see.
I'll get Patrick Swayze to do a pottery class with me and I'll just make it myself.
Ah, that would be beautiful. But this doll is creepy.
Yes.
In the movie. And she's almost, I don't know, the way she just kind of like carries it back to her
Yeah.
house, but which is just so funny. Um And so she meets her neighbor again. And he had she met him on the way to the house.
Yeah.
And it kind of seemed like he was trying to get her to go turn around.
Mm-hmm.
And so he admits that once he saw Owen, her husband, go to the house with a woman who was not Beth.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, Owen came to Mel's house kind of dirty and upset and telling him, he had these dark urges
Mm-hmm.
but he wanted Mel to keep it a secret.
Mm-hmm.
So that night, Beth goes back to the house and she finds that Cerdroia book. It has like a little maze on the front that almost looks like a Celtic knot. And she's reading about how the purpose of this was to build a maze to confuse dark spirits.
Mm.
And this is when she starts hearing footsteps in the house. And there's a kind of a spooky moment where the top of a column looks like a face and then the
Oh yeah.
face turns to look at her, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But so the next morning, she ends up finding this bookstore from Owen's photos, and she goes there. And what? Go on.
I was gonna say, I don't know if this is what you were gonna say. That's a real bookstore. I looked it
Oh,
up on
really?
maps. I forgot about it until you just mentioned that she actually goes to it. And I do think I saved it to my places. I think it's about 5 hours from us. Um, yeah, let's see. Yeah, Books and Melodies, right? I think that's it.
Yeah, Books and Melodies.
Yep. Yeah, it's in Syracuse, but that's right outside of Utica. I wonder if they said it was Utica in the movie. But yeah, real place. The sign is real. Like if you look at the pictures of it on Yelp, like that's what it's called. Very cute.
I love that. In my
Yeah,
mind, I thought this is probably a real bookstore. They just changed the name. So I can't believe it's the
that's what
same
I thought
name.
too. Yeah. Yep. Nope, everything is the same.
Well, no offense to Books and Melodies, but I love how unhelpful the clerk is. And I just feel like that's really on brand, honestly, for small bookstores. Like people love
Yes.
local businesses and small bookstores. And I don't know why, because I always have terrible experiences with people who just like are like this guy. like, like she even says what she's looking for. And he says, "Oh, you probably mean this instead." But
Yeah.
like I'm just like, oh my god, I hate this man.
So unhelpful. She asks, like, which to be fair is kind of a big ask, like, who bought this book and did he buy
Oh,
anything
true.
else? Yeah,
Yes.
like that's a big ask. But if you went into like, if he had just bought this book on Amazon, she could easily find out everything else he got. Yeah,
Yes.
that's why you shop local, is so that when you die, your loved ones can't find out what you purchased.
Your purchase history is safe. Hmm.
Exactly. That's the big reason.
So at Books and Melodies, she finds Madeline, played by Stacey
Mhm.
Martin. And one thing, like, I mean, I don't know how I'd react in this situation, but it's like it's not this girl's fault that Beth's husband was
Yes.
a cheater, but
Yeah.
she's so mean to her.
She's immediately right off the bat. Like, she's so mean. She does not believe this girl. I mean, and like this girl too, I'm assuming she's like younger. She looks like a college kid. Like she she didn't know anything. So, yeah, I feel bad for her.
I did too, because she just gets cornered. She even calls
Yeah.
for help for the other
Yes.
guy, who never shows up, by the way.
No,
Again,
never.
totally unhelpful.
No.
Um, and yeah, so she Beth corners Madeline and is yeah, very mean to her. And also just like very bluntly and brutally tells her how Owen killed himself as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and then so after, she doesn't really get any information out of Madeline. So then Beth goes to Claire's house, and that's her teacher friend.
Hmm.
And her teacher friend is trying to tell her to drop all of this. Like, the movie doesn't quite get to the territory of my least favorite movie conceit, which is something crazy is happening to me and none of my friends believe me.
Yeah.
Like, that's my least favorite plot. And the movie
Yes.
doesn't quite get there, but it reaches its toes up there because Claire is really doing nothing to help her friend. She's just telling her
Yeah.
to drop it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, which is such weird advice because, like, I can understand being worried about, your friend who is clearly struggling with this. But I don't think that Rebecca Hall's character, I can't remember her name, is not acting irrationally. Like, of course, if your, partner kills themselves and you don't know why and you find out all these weird pictures on the phone, of course you're gonna want to know why. Like, some people might be like, "Oh, let it lie." But like, if I knew someone who did that and they wanted to find out why, I'd be like, "Hell yeah, let's go. Like, let's figure it out."
mhm,
Like, some people just need that closure. It's Claire's a very strange character to me in this movie. I actually kind of was
mhm,
thinking that she would somehow be involved in the creepiness because
mm,
my my it's bad, but my rationale is I was like, okay, in movies like this, usually the supportive or like the friend who's trying to like get you to like just let it go would be the elderly black man. And so why did they also include Claire?
yeah,
Um, that's what my mind was thinking. She is a very
mhm.
odd character, and I don't know if you were gonna bring it up or if there's anything else with this scene you were gonna say, but I think at the end she tells her, Claire tells Rebecca Hall, what is her character's name again?
Exactly, Beth.
Beth. Claire tells Beth like that she loves her, and it's this like kind of weirdly poignant moment, and it's like I've told my coworkers I've loved them, but it's never like I don't know, it was very weird tone, I feel like when she said it.
And Beth doesn't respond.
No, no, she doesn't care.
Yeah, yeah, it's such an odd dynamic.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And so at home, Beth is drunk again.
Mhm.
I think one thing I realized in this rewatch is how much she drinks. Like, she drinks
Yeah.
an excessive amount, which
Yes.
I do already, and I don't even have a dead hot husband. So so I do feel for her. But so she's just drunk and like yelling at the ghost. Like, come on, she's almost like Jennifer Love Hewitt. Like, what are you waiting for? She's just like practically
Yes.
spinning in her living room. Um, and of course, there's a knock at the door, bang, bang, bang. But it's Madeline.
Mhm.
And so she comes in and she says that she did go to the creepy mirror house with Owen,
Mhm.
and he showed her the creepy statue, and he started crying and even like choked her a little bit.
Yeah. There's a kind of funny line that she says where she says something about how, like, he was so excited to show me this house, even though it really wasn't that much. I don't know. That was very funny to me and very like telling of like a white man, just like it just
Yeah,
reminds me of all the time in college. Like, yeah, I built my own bed frame. Wow, it's so nice.
he's just so proud of
Whoa.
himself. He's like a
Yeah.
Ken.
Thank you, Barbie.
Yes. So, and so she says that Owen told her that he had to, quote, "end it for good." And we're
Hmm.
assuming this is like shortly before he committed suicide.
Hmm.
Um, so Madeline leaves. Beth starts drinking again, and then she goes out to the night house in the pouring rain, and she finds like bodies under the floor.
Hmm. Like really decomposed bodies.
Yeah, they're like in plastic and there's some
Yeah.
hands and feet and stuff. So back home, she leaves a voicemail for Claire, who doesn't answer. Again, just text her. But anyway, and so then she goes to take a shower and the folk rock starts playing again. And the fog, she goes to check it and the radio turns off and she turns back around and the fogged up glass says, "Here."
Hmm.
Um, and so then she has this very like almost like erotic embrace with this ghost. The ghost
Yeah.
shows up and you can see her skin where it's like being touched by something invisible.
Yeah, I did like that. And I liked because I think the first thing she does is she touches what is assumed to be like the ghost's face, and the camera just like gets really close and you can see the indenting of her fingers. I did really like that.
It's really well done. This is a really well done scene.
Hmm.
And she is, locked in this, she thinks she's reunited with her husband, but then he says, "I'm not Owen."
Yeah.
And she sees another woman in the mirror and Owen killing her by slamming her
Hmm.
head into the mirror. And then the same thing happens to Beth, which gets her transported into this mirror world. And she keeps seeing other women in states of peril.
Hmm.
And the negative space ghost, she keeps seeing this. The negative space always looks like a face, and the ghost drags her, I think, by her hair into this Christmas scene where Owen is with Beth by a crackling fireplace.
Hmm.
And this is where we get the info dump of the movie, where the spirit reveals that he has been trying to convince Owen to kill Beth because he almost had her when she died when she was 17.
Hmm.
But Owen, again, because he's the perfect husband, has been trying to trick this spirit to save her.
Right.
And now he's finally come to claim her now that Owen is dead.
Yeah.
And I have so many thoughts, which again I'll get into in a bit. But number one is like, oh, this is Final Destination. Like, like this went from like brooding, like sad psychological drama to Final Destination in like two
It's so funny.
seconds.
Maybe that's the aspect that I'm like, oh, that's charming. And it reminds me of a 2000s movie, is it's
Yes,
Final
because it
Destination.
is. Yes.
That's so funny. Oh, my thoughts on it is thank God Owen was hot and charming because he had to lure a lot of women. I mean, could you imagine if she married just some like average Joe Schmo? Like you would never follow him to a house in the woods. But because it's
Okay.
Owen Bubblebutt, you're,
Oh, bubble butt.
you're just lambs to the slaughter.
I kind of want that movie. I want The Night House, but a comedy where she's married to like
Yes.
an ugly guy who's just trying to trick this spirit, but no one will fall for him.
Well, and I think actually I I loved the aspect of the movie when you find out that he's this murderer. I loved that storyline, and I almost wish that this movie was from his perspective, or at least more of the movie was like from his perspective or something. I don't know. I did really enjoy that storyline. So I would see that movie too. Maybe they'll do a Night House too. Night House 2, Owen Comes for
Just
You.
Yeah, the cinematic universe of The Night
Yeah.
House. Why not? Other lesser movies. I mean, if the boy can have a sequel, which I love, but if the boy can have a sequel, the Night House can have
Yes,
a sequel.
honestly.
But I do have many thoughts on this that we'll get into
Mhm.
at the end. And I keep saying this because I don't want to forget. um, so we do get a lot of like really great cinematography here because so she gets like twisted into the shape of the statue, and
Mhm.
there are these two moons in the sky. She's kind of trapped between these two things. And then then we kind of cut to the morning and Claire shows up. So what I want to talk about when we get into the Gothic recap is like what is real and what isn't.
Mm.
And so we can assume that obviously the phone call that Beth made to Claire actually happened because Claire shows up. But she just sees Beth in this boat by herself with the gun,
Yeah.
and the spirit is trying to tell her to kill herself, and so Claire swims out there,
Yeah.
which is wild, and then like drags her back to shore, and then Beth is kind of on the dock and looking out, and there's the boat, and there's a shadow that looks like a figure, and Mel says there's nothing there, and Beth says I know, and then
Mm. Yeah. I will say that ending was overall a little disappointing. It didn't really have a whole lot of emotional weight. I mean,
mhm,
it was hard to have any sort of emotional weight when the person you know, who is sort of doing the rescuing and you know, getting her back to solid ground literally is this character who is like not developed and very like kind of strange to have there. Um yeah, it is, you know, I didn't think too hard on like the what is real and what isn't. I was just there for the vibes. So but you're right, like so much of it could have just taken place in her head.
mhm. And I think, well, we'll get into it after our break,
Mm,
but we'll talk
yes.
a little bit about it because part of it depends on, and I like the movie in a certain way and not in a
Yes.
certain way. So we'll get into that after our break.
Woohoo.
All right, ghosties, we're back with our Gothic roundup. All Gothic films have four elements: a girl, a guy, a house, and a haunt. And I think this movie is rich with these things.
Mm,
And I thought it was funny. I think because I just dismissed the movie outright, but you were the one that mentioned this movie for the
yeah.
podcast. And I was like, nope, because I just didn't want to talk about it. But then the more I think about it, like this movie is overflowing with Gothic,
Yes. Yeah,
like really strong characters.
yes. I actually had a friend recommend it. She's only like partially familiar with the podcast. I think she's thrown on a couple episodes. So, hi Nicole, if you watch this.
Rude. Yeah.
Um, yeah, right, but
Yeah.
also
Listen.
rude.
Yeah. Listen
From
more.
episode
Yeah.
one. Yeah,
Thanks.
let's
Yeah.
go.
Listen more. Share.
Yeah. Um, um, but yeah, like we said at the top, you know, I've never seen this movie before, and so I was like, yeah, I'll definitely bring it up because it has the word house in it. Like it's gotta be, you know, pretty gothic. I don't know.
True.
Um, and obviously I'm very happy that we watched it. I liked it a lot. And I also have really liked listening to you talk about it. But yeah, it is quite rich in gothic categories. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, so we have our girl, Beth,
Mhm.
and she is really interesting to me. And this is where like this is where I feel like Beth. We're like I don't know. So two things. One, even though I don't really like this movie as a whole, I think there's a lot to talk about, which I do greatly appreciate.
Mhm.
Um, the second part is I don't know if there's a lot to talk about intentionally, and that's kind of where. Thirdly, I'm going to make this whole metaphor that doesn't quite make sense, but I feel like Beth in that Beth is trying to piece together the story of her husband, and I'm
Mhm.
trying to like piece together this movie, and I feel like both of us are looking for the best in these things that have let us
Mm.
down. um
Yes.
and we might just be making shit up to do that, and so hear me out.
Okay.
Hear me out. So for in my opinion there's two things happening in this movie.
Oh.
One, Beth had this presumably perfect marriage with this hot as fuck man who killed himself. She doesn't not know why. She finds out he was a serial killer.
Uh-huh.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Then, to me, all the haunt, all of that stuff, all this Final Destination shit is in her head. And she has created that because she cannot come to terms with the fact that her husband was a serial killer. And she has to justify it by saying, my husband was a serial killer to protect me. And
Mm,
she comes up with this convoluted story because that's her only way of coping with it, because she cannot admit that this perfect man that she knew for 15 years was someone who she didn't know. But
yeah.
if she can rationalize it by saying he did this to protect me,
Yeah.
then she will like have some sort of sense of closure. But then the way the movie ends implies that like this is still going to be hanging over her,
Right.
regardless. She
Yeah.
hasn't come to the truth yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely a, I don't know if this is the right word, a productive way to think about the movie. Because I was almost thinking, what if it was like, what's the term? A folie à deux, where it's like a shared delusion between the two of them. What if they
Oh,
both are kind of, because she says something about how he's never really been like the depressed one. She's always been the one with that shit, is I think what she says.
yeah.
Um, going through the trauma of whatever happened to her at 17. I mean, this is all like I have not thought about it as much as you thought about your theory, but like that could be sort of, you know, additionally, maybe they're both kind of because you know, he is doing weird shit. And obviously serial killers are not normal. I know, crazy take. Uh, whoa. But he is doing really like the whole, and again, this might just be the movie throwing shit at a board because there's like witchcraft element, there's the, Irish folk tale element, there's the like alternate dimension element kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I definitely think a lot of it is psychological one way or another, whether or not the like haunting is real. I think even if it's real, it's it's a it's a very psychological issue.
Yeah, either way, we're getting into the psychological
Yeah.
drama of it. And I
Hmm.
think what made me almost double down on my theory in this one is because I did realize how fucking drunk she is throughout most of the movie.
That is
And
very true.
like and for a movie that's so realistic, like she literally gets dragged into a mirror dimension. And like I'm I'm reading things like
Mm,
online where people are writing about this movie like at face value, and I don't remember if it was on the Wikipedia or something, but they're like when she's in, and they start calling the bad guy, if you want to call it the bad guy,
yeah.
nothing with a capital N,
Okay.
um, as if his name is nothing,
Hmm.
and so they're like when Beth is in nothing's realm, and I'm just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
this
Right.
is like like Goosebumps or something. Like I
I was
just
gonna
can't.
say, like, this is not this is not in its is this is not an Insidious movie. Like, 'cause that's the whole thing with
Right.
Insidious. Yeah, like this is not that. And I do fully agree with that. Whether or not there is some sort of like spooky happenings, like I, even if you want to look at like the mirror realm or something, it's like uh, it's most likely just like it's funny that you brought up like the drunk thing because she never acts drunk either. You know what I mean? Like she's never stumbling around.
Oh, she's a
So,
hardcore alcoholic. She's like, because
yeah,
she's like blackout drunk. Like she
right.
is drinking and waking up in other places.
Yes.
Like hardcore.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got some stuff to deal with more than just the ghosts.
Yeah, and I think again, this is just me trying to make the movie better, but maybe I like to think that this was maybe the intention. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, because the movie works so well as this depression story as a story of like when you lose someone to suicide, people are often so desperate to put it together.
Yeah.
And that question is often impossible to answer. And you can
Right.
only make your best guess based on what you find. And so, sure, she's finding these weird books. They might not have anything to do with it.
That's
Like I've got a
true.
bunch of weird ass books in my apartment. That doesn't mean that like my life philosophy is like based on them. Like
That's
it
very
just
true.
so
Yeah.
that's why I think she's headcanoning, at this
Yeah.
story about her husband to make him into this savior.
Yeah. I really, really like that take a lot, actually. I would be interested to rewatch it with that in mind.
Yeah, I haven't done a lot of research, like
Yeah.
reading if there's like scholarly articles on it and
Mm,
stuff, but I might try to see if people will back me up. I got so sidetracked by Evangelion that I didn't have the time.
yes.
But
Did they,
oh, go on.
I was just gonna ask, did they ever really, because I'm like trying to think of it now, and I think actually that would make a lot of sense with him just sort of being this like serial killer. Because did they ever really explain why he killed himself? Like, did so like it would make more sense to me that he was just the serial killer because the last girl, the one that she speaks to, she gets away just by saying like stop it, and he's like
Mhm.
okay, and then it's implied that he goes and kills himself. So because that was always sort of a hole in the plot for me is, well, why did he think just, and I think maybe it's implied that he thought killing himself would just his stop everything, like his urges to, I don't know.
Mhm.
So you're right. Like, I don't know if that's a movie plot hole or if it's a plot hole in Beth's logic, you know?
Right.
You could look at it that way.
I think it could be a little bit of both because, yeah, part of it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I feel like, because we're still like, oh, he's a serial killer with a heart of gold. He's
He is.
still he
Yeah.
he might have killed these other women, but he still didn't want to kill his wife. So he
Yep.
killed himself. But then like also, so if we take the ghost story as real, then we
Hmm.
get into to segue into the guy element. A lot of
Mm.
times, the gothic guy, if he's not explicitly terrible, he's a terrible communicator.
Yes.
And we've ended up with that with Owen, because let's say Beth's headcanon about this ghost, this Final Destination ghost, is true. Then
Hmm.
we have two things. He could have just fucking told her,
Right.
like, babe, I'm really sorry. I've been killing all these other women to protect you. And
Yes.
like, that would be its own thing to work out.
Right.
Um, Also, then she interprets the suicide note, which says there is nothing. Like, oh, he meant capital N. Like,
Yes.
and like, and it's so dumb because instead it just like say there is nothing parentheses an actual evil entity that has been chasing you since you died when you were 17. Like he was not under any sort of like duress to write this note. It's not like he was hastily scrawling it out. like spell
Right.
it out. Like
Seriously. That is true. That is true.
so yeah, so he's either like serial killer with a heart of gold
Mhm.
or like serial killer who's also like a himbo. He's just really stupid.
Yes.
Like,
Just
and so
smooth
either one
brain.
is possible, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Poor
Yeah.
Owen.
Poor Owen. At least he's hot.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. And he undressed before killing himself, so now his ghost will always be naked.
Yes, because your ghost appears in what you were wearing when you died. I hope I'm wearing
Yeah.
something really cute when I die.
Yeah, do you think that's why he did it? Why he undressed? Because I was always very confused about that. But maybe he did it because he just knows. But then again,
Oh,
if
that's a good
yeah,
point.
yeah,
Because
maybe he wanted to be naked.
yeah, he wasn't it wasn't like a Lizzie Borden thing. Because it's not like he showed up to the
Yeah,
neighbor's house all naked. That would have been really
right.
funny if
Yeah,
the
it would have been.
neighbor was like, Beth, girl, once your husband showed up butt ass naked, and like two things. One, I understand why you've been married to him for 15 years.
Good job,
But
girl.
also he promised that I would never tell you. Like, but
Yeah,
girl, like I knew there was something going on there, and I was
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Hmm. Oh
Wasn't just the
man, yeah,
house.
we got to remake this movie with like a sense of humor. Um,
Seriously.
well, anything else on our girl or guy before we move on to our house and our haunt?
I don't think so.
Excellent. So house, gorgeous.
Amazing. Lake house, beautiful. Lots of
What?
windows.
It's so yeah, it's so nice.
Yeah.
Um, Also good horror movie house because like the first thing in a horror movie is like, oh crap, I've got all these windows.
Yeah.
Like there's something I can do about it.
Right, right. Yeah, the floor plan is a little bizarre. There's sort of like an office. It seems like it might be in like a basement or something. I'm not sure, or like at least on a lower level, because I think it's built up on a hill. Obviously, too, there's
Hmm.
the point that Owen built it, you know. I'm sure there's some symbolism there that someone smarter than me could point out, but
Okay.
he builds it and then, I don't know if you have anything else to say about the original house, but then you have the mirrored house, the mirror dimension.
Which is just like a bunch of plywood, like it's not even finished.
It's not even, yeah. It's what did she say? He was really proud of it. I don't know why.
Yeah, that is one of the things that pokes holes, I think, in my theory as well. Because
Mm,
like, if I was a serial killer, like I don't. It was let's say if I was a girl being targeted by a serial killer, and this guy took me out to this creepy plywood house in the woods,
right.
I'd be like, mm.
Mm,
But
well,
again, he is so hot. I don't know. He
that's
could take me
true.
anywhere.
Put your blinders on. It's a little
Yeah,
confusing too, because I think, well, the girl, what's her name? Was it Madeline or something? The one that
Madeline. Yeah.
yeah. She says that she's been to their house. That's how she knew how to get there. So did he drive up into the driveway of this beautiful house? The women were probably like, "Oh my God, this is where he lives." And then he was like, "No, follow me." And he instead walks them. It's
Like a long way.
rubbish. Like,
So bizarre.
oh my God. I thought I was getting this beautiful house with this beautiful bathroom. He
Maybe he's
just
like,
knew.
first we have to go here, and then we graduate to the
Yeah,
bigger house. Yeah.
right, right. Yeah. Believe me, this is just as impressive. And that's why she was like, he was so proud.
Oh my god. Well, it looks like they did film in Syracuse, as you
Mm,
said,
okay.
and this was like it's sort of a real house. Like there
Mm.
was a house, but then they kind of like built onto it
Oh, interesting.
for the movie. Even though it seems like they built it's almost like they built sets onto the house, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Because the house was owned by someone else. Like it's not like they owned the house.
right.
And they said the filmmaker said they weren't allowed to film in the master bedroom, probably because there's someone living there. So they
Yeah.
had to like kind of add on to the house. Um,
Interesting.
which would be
Huh.
fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if there's like a behind the scenes on that because I can't think of any other movie we've talked about that has something like that.
Yeah, usually
Yeah.
they just like maybe film in three houses and pretend it's one because
Right.
movie magic, but not
Yeah,
that
yeah,
they
yeah.
literally changed the exterior of an existing home.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, very cool. I would love to maybe someday I'll be rich enough where someone will film in my house and
Yeah.
add a wing onto it.
Right. And I'd be like, no, no, stay out of my room. No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, you can't film it here.
No cameras,
Uh,
please.
So on to the haunt. We talked a
Hmm.
bit about our haunt and it being inspired by a little bit of real life things like the creepy doll and mazes and stuff
Hmm.
and ghosts. Anything else to add to that?
Um, spooky folk music, folk rock music. It's always scary.
Yeah, I'm
Radio
not a
folk
folk
rock.
fan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's another thing
am.
that made me less
Yeah,
sympathetic to them. I'm like, oh, this hot rich white couple listening to this music. Like, I just don't care.
I am a fan, but I would be very concerned if it just randomly started playing. Like, I don't know, play something more upbeat or something. Um, I don't think there's really a whole lot else to say with the haunt. I wish there was more, I don't know, creepy things in the lake. That's what this needed, a lake monster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, but
I think if I was in this scenario, the radio would be blaring Spice Girls Wannabe.
ooh, yeah, like that's the one that's art like always queued up.
That's our song, yeah.
Yeah,
Because whenever I'm at someone else's wedding, I I hound the DJ until he plays Spice Girls Wannabe.
that's
And
right.
so I can only imagine that should anyone be unlucky enough to marry me,
Mm,
that we will play Spice Girls Wannabe at the reception of my own wedding.
yes. Mine would probably be um Picture by Kid Rock and Sheryl Crow.
Oh dear
I
God. I feel like I
that
heard that recently at like Trader
that
Joe's or something.
that song is always queued up and ready to go wherever I am. That's my like that is
Wow.
a great karaoke song. I get someone to go up there with me. I'm Kid Rock, of
Okay.
course. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so that would be mine personally, I think. That would be
I
really fun
love
to wake
that.
up in the middle of the night to just like, "Stuff to drink you away," and the Kid Rock. It would be so fitting for this movie. Why
That's true.
song? Oh my God. This is just it's a 2 hour long music video for Picture by Kid Rock and Sheryl Crow.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll make it happen.
Missed opportunity.
Maybe they probably just couldn't. It's a low budget movie. They couldn't afford the
Yeah,
licensing.
they couldn't license that. Yeah.
They probably wanted it. They wanted that song, but this was their
Yeah.
second choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Probably.
Mhm. Well, anything else you want to add before we decide if this is gothic?
I don't think so. I think that's it.
So, what do you think? Is it gothic?
So, huh,
I think this is
Gothic.
one of the. I think this is like a very modern gothic. Like it
Mm,
has all the elements, but not in a configuration that we're used to seeing. And I feel
yeah,
like this is a really fresh, almost new type. We have like our Victorian Gothic, we have our American Gothic, and I
right.
feel like this is like a real modern Gothic.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those ones where it's it's kind of hard to like give it the 100% stamp of approval, but when you look at it objectively, it has a lot of gothic elements. There is something about maybe like the tone and the fact that it's probably a lot of psychological, you know,
Hmm. And it's very
issues.
domestic.
Yes, yeah. So it can be like a little bit hard to think of it that way, but I think so. I think it is.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Gothic, the
Mm-hmm.
Gothic Night House. Well, that's it. That's it. That's it for the Night House. Gothic,
That's it.
a
Yes.
new frontier for Gothic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Ghosties, for listening to us break down The Night House. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can rate and review us on Spotify and answer our little poll questions. And drop us an email at sogothicpod@gmail.com. And until next time, stay ghosty. Bye bye.
Bye.